Well, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. We will be getting started in a couple of minutes. I always try to give folks a couple of minutes to get onto the webinar. Glad to see some names that I can recognize in the attendees. Hello, everybody. It is 1 o'clock and the numbers are growing, so we will wait a few seconds. Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm Paz Artaza Regan. I am program manager at Catholic Climate Covenant, and I am very happy to be here with you today. Thank you for joining us, and I want to especially thank all our presenters for taking the time to be with us today. This is the second in a series of webinars that we are putting together that focus on diocesan-based activities. The first of the webinars focused on the Archdiocese of Chicago and Atlanta, and this one is going to focus on the creation care activities of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, the Diocese of Joliet, and the Diocese of San Diego. These are what I call champion dioceses and archdioceses that are truly leading the way on creation care in the United States. Before we go into the webinar itself, we always have a few housekeeping little issues. The webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent to you within the next 24 to 48 hours. We ask that if you have questions, and we will hopefully have Q&A time at the end, to put them in the Q&A box. And if you know who the question is directed to, whether it's to a certain diocese or a certain presenter, please put that in your question. The chat is for you to chat with each other. We do not have downloadable chats in these webinars. So once the webinar is done, the chats are not being able to be saved. Just wanted to give you that little bit of information. The other bit is we always start with prayer. That is something that the covenant believes that we should be always in the mode of prayer. Our webinars are hopefully a moment of prayer as well. And I chose for this webinar from the Laudato Si movement's new prayer book, this prayer for a just, habitable, and sustainable common home. Please center ourselves and remember that God is always in our presence. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Merciful God and creator of all, we praise you for the gift of the earth, home to so many forms of life, the common home of peoples, cultures, and species. We have made it an unjust place where some consume and pollute more than others, and the poorest face the greatest impacts of climate change. Therefore, we ask you to help us achieve climate and ecological justice so that no one takes for themselves what belongs to all. What we may share the world's goods equitably and live simply so that we may bear witness that the earth is the sister and mother of all. Help us to respect its rhythms of regeneration so that it may sustain all living beings, both in the present and for future generations. Amen. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. At this point, I'd like to very quickly introduce just a little bit about our panelists. As we go into each of the presentations, I will also give more info about each of the panelists. And I will also put in the chat a document that has the longer bios for everyone. That way we don't spend too much time doing bios during this presentation, and we really go into the presentations themselves. So today we have with me some of my favorite people. I get to work with them through the Interdiocesan Care for Creation Network. And these are the folks that really are doing the work at the local level. From the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, we have Sister Sheila Marie Fitzgerald. She's a Benedictine sister. We have Rosemary Spalding. From the Diocese of Joliet, we have Kayla Jacobs. From the Diocese of San Diego, we have Robert Gillespie, Father Emmet Farrell, Christina Slentz, and David Lamont. And as I said, as I present each one of them, we'll give a little bit more. So I'm going to stop sharing. At this point, the order of presentations will be Indianapolis, then Joliet, then San Diego. So in order to present a little bit about Indianapolis, I just need to say that when folks sent me their bios, I read things about them that I did not know, even though I worked with them for years. For example, Sister Sheila, I had no idea had trained to be a chemist. And that was like, ooh, a chemist of all things. So quite impressive, her CV of what she did as a chemist. And Sister Sheila is a member of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis Creation Care Commission, as is Rosemary. She's a master naturalist and tree steward, another thing that I did not know. And she's led creation care work in her community as well as within the diocese. And she leads the Laudato Si Action platform work for her community. Rosemary, I had no idea that you were an attorney. Another thing I did not know. And Rosemary, also member of the Creation Care Commission, where she has also an experience of over 30 years as an attorney and is the board president of Earth Charter Indiana. So at this point, I will pass it to Rosemary and Sister Sheila, and you will talk to us about the Archdiocese of Indianapolis.
Thank you, Paz. It's really an honor to be included among the champions, the Creation Care champions. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, so we're really honored. And also so glad to know that you enjoy as much as we do participating in the interdiocesan group. It's been a joy and such a learning experience. But what I want to do briefly is just tell you the background. Paz asked us to say, how did we get started? And then Sister Sheila is going to talk about highlights from some of the projects we've done. And then we'll both try to cover some lessons that we've learned in the past 7 or 8 years. It's kind of amazing. We've been doing, our commission's been together that long. So the catalyst for our formation was in March of 2015, the Marian University sponsored a prayer breakfast on creation care, and the featured speaker was our newly installed then Archbishop Tobin, Joseph Tobin, who's now obviously a cardinal. And I did not know what to expect. It was a really good group of people there to hear him. I thought, maybe he'll talk about recycling and stuff, which would be a little disappointing. Not the case. He went to the heart of the matter, talked about the moral imperative for addressing human-caused climate change and the emergency that it presented. And he shared with us that an encyclical was forthcoming in just a few months from Pope Francis, and that the encyclical would call for all Catholics to care for creation, and by doing so, care for the poor and the most vulnerable among us. So he really ignited my spirit, because I'd been doing this a long time and was somewhat frustrated, especially with what I didn't perceive to be action in the Catholic community in Indianapolis. So his remarks signaled for the first time, really, the strong support for creation care in our archdiocese. But it did another important thing, and that is it brought together a group of individuals who'd been working on these issues for a long time. And we started meeting right away. And that was really the beginning of of our Creation Care Commission. We began meeting, and let me just say that we have been meeting monthly and for the last several years, every 2 weeks as a group. So it really has been a commitment by this group to stay together, to work together, and just to keep advancing the ball. Sometimes when we feel like we're hitting a brick wall, sometimes when things are really exciting and going well. We've just stuck with us. I want to make a note that one of our founding members, John Mundell, has been active with the Vatican for quite a while. In fact, right after the encyclical was issued, he was at the Vatican with a group of people talking about how was it going to be implemented. So he's participated since that time with the Vatican, and just recently on, let's see, there was a press conference about the World Day of Prayer for Creation Care that's upcoming at September 1st. Anyway, it was announced by His Eminence Cardinal Michael Journey, Prefect for the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development, that John has been named the director of the Laudato Si Action Platform. So we were all just stunned and amazed, and it's great to have him with that background on the commission. So hopefully you all will get to meet him at some point through maybe a webinar on Catholic Climate Covenant as he gets busy to try and promote that. So once we started meeting, our first steps were to just share with each other what we've been doing, research other dioceses and faith communities, and brainstorm possibilities for Archdiocese. We developed our mission, vision, and guiding principles, and they have remained our bedrock really in terms of gauging what we wanted to do and why. We've created a list of ideas, and we requested a meeting with Archbishop Tobin, and he promptly granted that request. So our next thing was to prepare for our meeting with him. We reviewed the encyclical because by that time in May it had been issued. We put together a notebook of reference materials for the Archbishop, and we developed a proposal for moving forward that we wanted to talk with him about. On June 29th, 2015, we met with Archbishop Tobin and shared our vision for a sustainable archdiocese. We discussed the Archbishop's thoughts on creation care in the Archdiocese, and that was very moving and very inspirational. We identified a process for achieving our common goal, and we left the information about creation care resources, which he was very excited to receive. And it was a notebook binder 3 inches thick, so it had a lot of stuff in it. He asked us, as a result of the meeting, to prepare a 12-month plan for moving forward, which we promptly started to do. He identified a liaison, which came to be we realized very important, and that liaison was the director of pastoral ministries. So that meant that we didn't have to, be relying on the Archbishop's schedule to talk with him about this. We had a direct link in the Archdiocese through that liaison. And the Archbishop dubbed our group the Creation Care Commission. We had suggested Creation Care Advisory Work Group, but he elevated it, the status of the group, by saying that he wanted us to be the Creation Care Commission. We didn't realize it at the time that it had some significance. We started meeting quarterly with our liaison. We developed our plan per the Archbishop's request, and we actually started implementing things fairly quickly. And Sister Sheila will highlight those things. And probably the most significant thing, we established an official presence with our website, www.ourcommonhome.org. We felt like it was a sign from above when we were able to get that URL, Our Common Home. Couldn't believe nobody else had that yet. Then we had a jolt and a real disappointment when Archbishop Tobin was installed as Cardinal Tobin and moved to the Diocese of Newark, the Archdiocese of Newark. It was a blow to us because he was just so supportive and had ideas, and you can imagine how we felt. And really, we were very lucky that our current Archbishop, Charles Thompson, is very supportive as well. But it really delayed things because it took quite a while to get the new Archbishop installed. And we waited for a full year to be able to get a meeting with him because there were so many things going on in the Archdiocese at the time that we just really couldn't get on his calendar for quite a while. So we kept trying to go forward. It was helpful to have our liaison. And in the meantime, then, since then, just to kind of tell you where we are now, we have had 2 meetings with the Archbishop. And we also now have a new champion in the new chancellor for the Archdiocese, Chancellor Chris Walsh, who is very supportive. And he's receptive to our point that we really need to integrate all of this into every aspect of the Archdiocese. And he hopefully will help us in our goal that we've had from the beginning, which is to have a full-time staff person actually serve in the Archdiocese to really implement this ministry. So that's where we are now, and we can get into it a little more when we talk about the lessons we've learned. But I'll turn it over to Sister Sheila.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Rosemary. Well, I just want to take a minute to show you our website. Again, as Rosemary said, it's ourcommonhome.org. It's a wonderful website that one of our fellow members, Julie Reyes, has created and keeps and maintains. And so what I want to do is highlight just the first bullet point here, the projects. This is really a good listing of what we've been about since 2015. We mark the seasons and moments of the year, you know, I guess liturgical and throughout the calendar year. So Laudato Si week, we always try to find some activity during Laudato Si week, even if it's a communication or something just to highlight. So quite often we will send out periodic newsletters, but we also put articles in the diocesan newspaper, and we really just try to get the word out and to keep it in people's minds, people in the Archdiocese. And then this Plarn project, if you've ever heard of plarning, it's like weaving the plastic bags. We actually did that during NCYC. Indianapolis hosts the National Catholic Youth Conference every other year. And it's a great opportunity to get youth engaged. And so we had a subgroup of our members do a little plarning exercise, and as well as some other activities for the youth. And it was very popular, very well received. And we've actually done those projects elsewhere. We've had some parishes contact us as well. We have an outdoor sacred spaces guide, which again is a beautiful way to just let people know that there are places they can go within the diocese that are beautiful and really help you connect with nature. We also are involved with advocacy. We created what we call Indiana Catholics for Creation. It was started out of our commission, but it was also, but it's statewide because we work with the Indiana Catholic Conference. And it's really to support and help the Indiana Catholic Conference. And actually, we've also been working with the Catholic Climate Covenant Encounter. We were really the point group to be working with contacting our federal, senators and representatives on this most recent efforts. We do actually native tree and flower sale during the season of creation. And this year we're going to have our second Care for Creation Mass, and the Archbishop will be the main celebrant for that. The Catholic Climate Covenant has had those $1,000 grants, and so we've offered some like smaller grants for that to help again stimulate some activity and interest within the diocese. And then we also have done a sustainability program at the parish level to really go in and help parishes to identify ways that they can be more energy efficient in their buildings. And then again, to connect and help people, we did a parish survey to really help build the communication amongst the different parishes. That's one of the biggest challenges, is trying to get hold of, the different people within the diocese. So that's just a quick summary, but just want to summarize too by sharing some of those learning points that we've had. The first is, if you haven't started, you're just an individual in your diocese and you feel like, oh, this is an important thing to be about and I want to do it. The first is to gather your group and find the like-minded people in your diocese. And so you can look through the Laudato Si circles, anybody involved with Catholic Climate Covenant, Interfaith Power and Light, anybody that's involved in that would be interested in working with you, like Rosemary's Earth Charter and other local organizations that are involved with Care for Creation. Look at parishes and what they do, There might be some efforts where they're working, maybe schools are working on something, and businesses. I mean, you know, Rosemary is a environmental lawyer and John is an environmental engineer. So that's what they do. And so you look for those people in your diocese to try to gather them together. The second thing is build your roadmap. You know, build a good vision for what you want to do and look for ways to add value. You know, but start small. I mean, we're all volunteers and we only have limited amount of time. So you want to focus in on what creates the most value and also work with your strengths, work with what you know best and can do. So you try to match that up, show that you have some value that you can bring to the diocese. And the third thing is to stay connected. The most important thing is to be connected to the diocese. We have a liaison. It's important to have that formal structure in place and build trust. You know, I use the phrase be patiently persistent because dioceses have a tendency to move slowly. I know ours, it took us a long time and we had challenges along the way, but to not lose heart, to continue to keep trying. And you know, identify the formal structures, stay with the formal structures and to continue to communicate that way, but also look for other opportunities. We had one opportunity where we were struggling a little bit and we couldn't get some movement. And one of our members just said, you know what, our Archbishop has an email. Why don't we just email him? And wouldn't you know, he said, yeah, let's schedule a meeting. So don't be afraid to be a little bit bold, but at the same time, know what works best and know the personalities in your diocese. And the other thing is to build a network, stay connected to the other organizations. There's so many. So it's important not to reinvent the wheel, you know, leverage and use and build that network. I mean, that's what we're about, building the network. So connect with the organizations that are also working on this at the local, national, international level, and then continue to build contacts within your diocese and build that list of people that you can contact. And then finally, you know, the challenges that we find are time and money. That's the biggest challenge. But at the same time, what we have in our, you know, and really what's most important is that we have God on our side. We know that we're about God's work. And so continue to pray and continue to discern, and God will lead you in the right direction. So with that, I'll finish up and we can move on to our next group of panelists.
Sister Sheila, could I add just, I think your last comment is important. In terms of the dynamics of our group, the thing that's helped me the most is that people have had not just a positive attitude about what we're doing, but a sense of humor about it. And I tend to be the one that gets, you know, irritated when obstacles present themselves. Everybody else is very positive, and that's helped me a lot. But our favorite phrase is the goose is loose, which to us means the Holy Spirit has injected an idea or an opportunity. And so the goose is loose means a lot to our group, and we probably say it at least a couple times every meeting. And so I really urge you to get with the, you know, to try to, when you gather your group, get a group of people who are going to work together well, and because you spend a lot of time together.
Thank you, Rosemary, and thank you, Sister Sheila. I do believe that some of the experiences of your archdiocese are really transferable to many other places. So at this point, we're going to move to the Diocese of Joliet, and the presenter is Kayla Jacobs. And Kayla is the founding program coordinator for Laudato Si Ministries at the Diocese of Joliet. I have to say that when I hear about Kayla, usually there's two things that I always hear about her. It's one, her living in intentional Catholic farm communities. She's always has a story about animals. And the second part is that she is an amazing organizer with youth, Catholic youth. So I'm going to this time pass it on to Kayla.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kayla Jacobs, and as Pa said, I work for the Diocese of Joliet, and I run the Laudato Si Ministries for the diocese. As far as I know, we're one of the only dioceses in the world that has a Laudato Si specific ministry. And on October 4th, we will be celebrating our 3-year anniversary. I've been with the Diocese of Joliet for almost 8 years now. I started as the Associate Director of Justice and Peace for the diocese. And then shortly after I started at the diocese, Laudato Si was released. And it felt like everything I had felt and believed was put into a more articulate words by Pope Francis. And so it was really exciting and inspiring when Laudato Si was released. Sorry. Yeah, so then for years, I was elevating the message of Laudato Si through the Justice and Peace Ministry, but it was just one piece of the many other topics that we worked on through Justice and Peace. And I wanted to do more. I just didn't have the capacity to do that. And so eventually that feeling was just too overwhelming to ignore. So I worked with my then director, who is the director of the Office for Human Dignity. And him and I came up with the plan to pitch to the diocese for a Laudato Si specific ministry, full-time for the diocese. And we used 3 points as our argument. So one was that it was obviously something that was important to our Pope and to our church because he wrote a whole encyclical about it, so we should follow suit. 2 is that it's one of the most pressing issues of our time. We both, me and my director, and obviously Pope Francis as well, all believe that the climate crisis needs to be addressed right now. And it's time pressing. And then 3, we at the church own a lot of land, a lot of property. And so it is our responsibility to utilize that land and property in a more ethical and sustainable way. And that would have a huge impact on our carbon footprint, given the vast amount that we own. So after many conversations and meetings with diocesan leadership from like the finance office, buildings and properties office, and of course the bishop's office, we were told that if we could find the funds to support the ministry, then they would be happy to help us start the ministry. So that's what we did. So we are primarily funded through grant support and the individual donations as well, but we do fundraise our entire budget for Laudato Si Ministries. And so over the past 3 years, so we launched the ministry on October 4th, 2019, which is obviously the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. Also, 2019, that was just a few months before the COVID-19 crisis started. So a vast majority of our ministry has been done also in that context as well. So it's been interesting, but it's been really blessed. We've had a lot of great support and we've been able to get a lot done in these 3 years, given the circumstances. So now I'm just going to highlight some of the things that we do in our ministry. I'm going to share some pictures and I'll just highlight some of my favorites. We keep very busy here in the Diocese of Joliet. One second. All right, is all good? Cool. All right, so we focus on like 6 primary topics in our ministry. So one is parish support. That's very important to us. So that is includes a diocesan level Laudato Si committee that's made up of parish leaders. We meet once a month. We also help start new parish green teams and support the existing green teams as well with resources. We're happy to go and speak at the parish and anything of that nature. We have a narthex display, a few narthex displays that are available for our parishes to borrow in order to teach their parish community about Laudato Si and caring for creation. We also have a composting program. So parishes we have compost buckets that we take to parishes if they're having like a parish picnic or a parish event that they want to include composting in. We take the buckets and signage kind of explaining what composting is and like what can be composted. Like it's very easy. All they have to do is put the information out there and then we pick the compost bins up and then take them to our diocesan farm to be composted, which I'll talk about in a bit. And so here are just a couple of pictures from some of our parish engagement. So this is a picture of Sister Mary Catherine, who probably isn't super stoked that I'm putting a picture of her up here, but great picture. She did a great job at hosting a narthex display on reducing plastic use. And as you can tell, it was very popular with people stopping by. And this was done after all of the masses. It was during, I think it was during Earth Week, so the end of April, or maybe during Laudato Si. Those tend to be our couple busiest times of year, as well as the season of creation. Here's another narthex display that we have available, and this is to teach Catholic families how to live sustainably. So we do that through promoting the way that we travel, so promoting electric vehicles, the way we have energy in our homes, so solar and wind energy, our diets. So the cow is supposed to represent, maybe reducing your meat and having meatless Mondays or fasting from meat on Fridays. And then, of course, we have Pope Francis there giving the thumbs up. And yeah, so these large cutouts are available for our parishes to borrow as well. And they tend to grab the attention, especially of the little kids in the parish, because we use the car cutout from the Cars movie that kids tend to really like. And for advocacy efforts, we work with our Catholic Conference of Illinois and the USCCB, as well as partnering organizations like the Catholic Climate Covenant. We've also been very involved in the Encounter campaign that they've been leading. Additionally, we focus on a lot of local advocacy issues because Joliet is an environmental justice community, and there are a lot of air and water quality issues locally, and so we're part of those conversations as well. We like to educate people about Laudato Si, and so we have a blog that educates people, where we have a social media presence, but then we're also available to go out and speak. I've spoken at Theology on Tap, so like young adult events, confirmation retreats, and here's a picture. This is a picture of the Youth Climate Summit, which is a program or an event that we partnered with the Archdiocese of Chicago with. It was a day-long summit for high school age students. We had 70 kids with us all day to talk about the climate crisis and what they want to do to help impact their schools, parishes, and local communities regarding the climate crisis. And afterwards, we had conversations with some of the attendees, and all of them that we talked to were all in and want this ministry to keep going, want it to become more of a movement, and we're already in our planning stages for next year's Youth Climate Summit. So this was a very successful initiative that we started and just had it in April was our first one. Here is just from a presentation I gave on Monday. This was at a vacation Bible school. They invited me to come and speak to the youth for their camp. Their theme was celebrating God's greatness. And so I talked to 150 kids from ages 4 to like 10, I think. And we made this really cool banner. They drew pictures of where they see God's greatness in creation. And now this banner is hanging up at the diocese. So that's just another example of ways to do educational pieces and already existing things like Vacation Bible School is obviously a very popular program, at least in our area. And so just assisting the parish by leading one of their breakout sessions in that and teaching about caring for. So we also love to connect the caring for creation to our spiritual and prayer life as well. So encouraging people to, pray together and pray for creation and listen to the voice of creation. A big way that we do this is our annual Season of Creation prayer service, which is coming up soon on September 1st. Here are some pictures from previous ones. The cool thing about this prayer service is that it's all young adult led. We always have a committee of young adults who coordinate everything, and they do the music, they do the readings, they're MCs, they do the reflections. As you can tell in that picture, we had a young priest lead the reflection. Our first year, we did have Bishop Pates do it this year. And it's just a great time to gather and pray together and pray for creation, and then also give young adults the opportunity to lead the way in that. As you can tell in like the group photo in the bottom right, due to COVID-19, we've only had it for 2 years, and the venue has had attendee limitations, and so it was a smaller, more intimate group due to COVID-19, but they all were great so far. And then we are hosting our third one this year at the Wheaton Franciscan Sisters chapel at their mother house. So we're doing it in partnership with a religious community in the area who's been a great support of us. And we're hoping that it will have a very deep intergenerational vibe to it. And it will still be led by the young adult group. Sustainability, we encourage our parishes to do energy and water audits. I don't have any pictures of any of that, but it's definitely something we always try to do. And we do that in partnership with our buildings and property director. And then last but not least, we have a big emphasis on agriculture. So as you all might know, a lot of the diocesan properties are covered in grass, which isn't necessarily the best for the environment. And so our goal is to turn as much of that grass into organic gardens or farms, and then all the food that we grow goes out to the local community, to people who might need it. So just a few months ago, we started a new community garden at one of our parishes. Last year, we started 3 at different parishes. And then we also converted one of our diocesan properties into a diocesan farm, which is called Jordan River Farm. We have a director who lives there year-round, full-time, who helps direct all of the happenings. And we've also had interns who have lived there during different seasons. And the farm is in a low-income and food desert area. It's one of the lowest income communities in our state, and it's in our diocese. And so we have many programs there. We host groups, service retreats to teach people about Laudato Si, and then also give them the opportunity to work on the land. So this is a picture from a summer camp we hosted last summer at our farm with local kids. This is them decorating our new rain barrel. And then we have a lot of cool pictures, so I had to make like a little collage, but this is just on the bottom right is a group from one of our parishes of adults. And then the upper left was our farm staff from last summer. And then on the upper right, it's me and one of our former interns just shoveling a bunch of soil to put on some of our beds. And there's also some of our garlic and onion harvest there as well. And so again, all of the food that we grow there goes out to the local community, which, as I mentioned, is a food desert. So it's quite helpful. All right, so I think that was my last slide. So I'm going to stop sharing. All right, and so just to wrap up the 3 takeaways I'm going to leave you with of just, potential next steps for you or things to consider if you want to try something like this in your area. Well, first and foremost, I'm always available for conversation. So if you ever want to call me or email me, I'd be happy to talk to you about how we got things started here. But then the other 3 things is to find the key people at the diocese. Arch-Indy already mentioned that. For me, it was my former director. We do have a hierarchy in the church, and he was able to have the higher level conversations that I wasn't necessarily have had access to. And so finding that person who could advocate for you on the diocesan level and those higher level conversations. Also find a way to articulate that it's not only important and beneficial, but it's not only important given our faith is calling us to do it. So it's not only important for the diocese, but it's also beneficial for the diocese. So find a need and try to address that need. So, we make the argument that, we are bringing something to the table because we're growing a tangible thing, food, to give out to our local community as well. We have taken over this diocesan property that they needed help running, and so we started our farm there. And then additionally, eventually, once we have a larger scale sustainability projects going, it will save the diocese money. And so just to show the diocese that they would benefit from a ministry like this. And then last but not least, if possible, find outside funding. Unfortunately, a lot of dioceses are suffering right now financially due to COVID, and it's less likely for them to start new ministries. Not impossible, but less likely. And so if you can find grants that could support it, I highly recommend it. Trust me, I know it's easier said than done, but it's not impossible.
Thank you, Kayla. And I'm going to have to sort of keep going. Hopefully we will have time for questions. Next up is the Diocese of San Diego. And I have worked with Father Emmet and Bob for a few years now. The other two presenters are new to me because Christina, in fact, is just on staff for the last 2 weeks. And I've just met David. So glad to meet you here, David. One little thing about each of them that I found interesting in their bios, as again, I put the bio in the link in the chat. For Father Emmet, I did not know you were a missionary in Peru, and it was probably during the same years as a little girl I was there in Lima. So maybe we crossed paths. And Christina, I found out from you here that not only are you former Navy, as is David, but you've got years of working on creation care work. So, and a PhD, it seems, on this kind of work. Another PhD comes from David. And David, your bio that you sent me just now, you need to tell me some more about that whale communication research that you've done. That was fascinating. And Bob is an engineer, and he does a lot of the sustainability work coming from a background of gas and electric work in his other life besides what he does with the diocese. So I'll leave it up to the four of you to present now.
Okay, thank you so much, Paz. Can everyone see our first slide?
Yes.
Wonderful. I am Christina Slentz, and as Paz mentioned, I am newly hired full-time Associate Director of Creation Care for the Diocese of San Diego as of the 15th of July. So as Paz mentioned, I had a background, some Navy time. Actually, that's with Bob. He's my fellow Navy compatriot. And then was working in the academic realm and really focusing on security and economics. And that's what brought me to the problem of climate change. And having been a lifelong Catholic, I went to the University of Notre Dame. So I was up there by all of you Indianapolis ladies for some short time. And then found this opportunity to merge my faith life and my professional interests together. So I'm super grateful to be here. I am supported by an amazing team that has been established since 2017 under the leadership of Father Emmet Farrell. They have vision, discernment, and hard work that has culminated in my position. And I think that this poises us for taking things to the next level. You can see Father Farrell and I there at hard work. We have a great mission statement that guides us. It's rooted in Laudato Si and grounded in the See, Judge, Act framework of Catholic social teaching. One of the things we really want to do is redefine the idea of stewardship. When we say stewardship in the Catholic Church, everybody thinks about money and financials. We want this to be an understanding that all of our gifts as a church really come from creation. And this is illuminated by our scripture, and it calls us to demand action to mitigate the harmful effects of our human behavior on the climate and all life. So we want to go from the domestic church through the parishes, through our diocese, and out to the wider community with this message and express it with a sense of urgency. So Father Emmet and our energy expert, Bob Gillespie, and Dr. David Laram, our environmental science, are going to share with you the work since they've really done this over the last couple of years. So Father Farrell is going to take it away.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to cover the beginnings of our ministry here. And we have 4 presenters because we're accustomed to doing things as a team. Early in 2017, I began, after Georgetown had come here at the end of 2016, they were trying to jumpstart some dioceses to work on Laudato Si. I walked into the office early in 2017 and said, I'm going to offer to be the volunteer director. And for the last 5 years, that's what I've been doing. As I started on this, I found that some parishes had a hard time getting off the ground. It was one in particular that just wanted to do something. They kept looking at the size of the encyclical and thinking it's too much. So I put together a study guide for them. What it is the concepts, the basic concepts of each chapter of Laudato Si. And I made them into a question and told them what paragraph to go to. And then I said, underline or highlight your answer. You'll have your own summary of Laudato Si. We have that in both Spanish and English for our people to use. Then I began giving these introductory workshops. I've been to about a third of our parishes in the diocese. We have 97 parishes. I've been to about 30 of them. And we're doing great as everybody else, like until COVID hit. We probably had close to a dozen CCTs, Christian care teams, but then they all kind of faded. Now we're down to starting over again. We only have 3 or 4. I also offered to give homilies in the parish, Spanish or English, free. I have one actually this weekend. And I have been to about 12 or 15 of our parishes. I have one this weekend. Again, it's a bilingual parish. And I offered to go to preach at the high schools, some of them at their invitation, to preach at their masses on Laudato Si. And I've been to about a half a dozen or more of our Catholic grade schools to talk to the students. Between 2017 and 2021, as Christine mentioned, a great team of people came out of the woodwork. They're all highly educated. I say they're all better educated and more astute than I am at this. Each one of the members of the team is in charge of one of the deaneries of our diocese. There are 7 deaneries, and each one of us has taken one of the deaneries to work with those parishes. We're very active with the Interfaith Coalition for Earth Justice, ICEJ, they call them. In fact, this year we're going to do the Season of Creation Paraliturgy interfaith. It's the first time we've done it that way. We have great support here. We have from the beginning from Bishop, now Cardinal-elect McElroy, and also from the offices here at the diocese. In fact, the California Catholic Conference just gave us curricula for 3 grades, 4th, 7th, and 11th, and it will just begin this school year. We will be helping them, the teachers or the students, if they want the help from us under that deanery process. Also, we have an art contest to involve children that's coming on very soon when school starts. With that, I just wanted to cover the beginnings. The slide that you see here is some of the members and most of the members of our team. I'm going to turn this over to our next speaker, Bob Gillespie. Bob, you're muted, I think.
Sorry. Several years ago, we were very fortunate to get a copy of the Laudato Si action plan for the Diocese of Atlanta. And I have to say, we were truly inspired by looking at it. It was a fabulous document. I don't know if some of you have seen it or not, but it has a great message. So we decided to do our own creation care action plan. In this action plan, we had a history of creation care in San Diego Diocese, and Father Emmet mentioned he's been at this since at least 2017, and we've been working at it since then. And in the action plan, we have some of the basic science of climate change, because Laudato Si is known for that, although it's not the only thing. The message in Laudato Si, generally, in addition to the climate change, we look at the way we make things, use things, buy things. And finally, I think the most important aspect of it is the social equity aspect. We also talk about the goals of the Creation Care Action Plan. What do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish by this? And in relation to that, the underlying message, though, throughout the whole thing is an emphasis on the vulnerable, the poor. Pope Francis mentions the poor throughout the encyclical 60 times. So that's an important issue with him. But because we have in the title, the Creation Care Action Plan, the emphasis is on various things we can do, suggested activities in energy, water, and waste reduction. Next slide, please. And we call these measures of success. Our parish teams are asked to register with the diocese and complete action steps on several different areas, the individual, the parish, and the advocacy levels. Some of these measures of success, these are given in a table in the action plan where we list each one individually and go into some detail as far as what things people can do. And first thing is Catholic social teaching. The underlying message of Laudato Si is the consistency between the encyclical itself and Catholic social teaching. We hold seminars and workshops, and we try to advance the message of Laudato Si. You see right there, Dr. Maureen Gay, she's a assistant professor at Franciscan School of Theology. We've also developed a good relationship with the Catholic University of San Diego in the issues concerning Laudato Si. Environmental justice, I was struck one day looking at the encyclical. I could see the environment was mentioned 160 times throughout the encyclical. And fortunately or unfortunately, most people, when they hear Laudato Si, they think about climate change. Now, that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because of the urgency of that issue we see now, especially with the flooding in Kentucky, the fires in California, and the rest of the California. It's such an important issue. But there are other issues as well. Transportation. Transportation is the highest emitter of greenhouse gases in California. So those of you who've driven through LA or even San Diego, that's probably struck by the effects of transportation. Buying and sharing food. I think California probably prepares and offers to the rest of the country more fruits and vegetables. And so it's important that we deal with this right here, and especially food for the poor. Purchasing and producing clean energy. Now, I think Father mentioned that we have about solar panels in about half the parishes in San Diego. And we consider that's such an important thing to do. And we're continuing to work with parishes both on energy efficiency and installing solar energy. Reducing water consumption. A lot of people don't know, but the last 2 decades in this region have been the driest in 1,200 years. I've been through a number of droughts in California. This is by far the worst we've ever seen. We do things like working with the schools to have hydration stations in the schools to limit the profligate use of water. Purchasing and recycling. One of the messages in Laudato Si by Pope Francis is the idea of consumerism. He mentions this over and over for two reasons. Number one, it distracts us from what we should be paying attention to in our life, creation care, caring for our creation. And number two, all the things we buy eventually have to be thrown away, which gives rise to the need for recycling and caring for our landfills. The last item here is advocacy. I'm sure everybody has an idea what this is about, but it's relating to the other organizations in our society, especially political organizations. If we can continue to advance the message both to the local political organizations as well as the other organizations, San Diego 350, that's one we've been working with. The Interfaith Coalition for Environmental Justice, working with these groups in order to double the strength of our message. Next slide, please. One of the areas we think our Creation Care Action Plan is a little bit different from some of the others is that we recognize achievement. You see up there certificates right there. There's a silver one for individual accomplishments, a gold one for parish accomplishments, and a green one for ones in society. That's generally the ones that we accomplish through our political representatives. And we think doing this by recognizing people, parishes, and other elements of society, we can continue to advance people doing this. We've already distributed a number of these certificates at the various parishes and individuals. And I think people like to know they've made a contribution to advancing the message of Laudato Si. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have very little time left, so I'm going to speak kind of quickly. Our first paid position was actually an internship. Our wonderful first intern, Sarah, who began about a year ago, and then transitioned to Patrick, the young blonde-haired guy you see holding the box in this photo. And he's been very active at the Newman Center at San Diego State and has done a lot of wonderful stuff. For future internships, we're blessed to hopefully take part in this program from California. I'm forgetting the name of it, but we're going to. There's a big internship program that we hope to have up to 6 interns to help in the future and they'll all be paid interns, which is wonderful. Next slide, please. Okay, so Cardinal-elect McElroy, who you can see blessing people, blessing the students in the photo on the left, suggested that our first real direct action would be a tree planting program. And so we've taken that request and run with it. It's been going for about a year now, and we've planted or committed to plant more than 40 trees in about 7 parishes, 1 school, which you can see there, St. Didacus, and also Kairos House, which is for felons returning to society. And even at the diocese, we planted 3 trees. So, having this wonderful level of support was great. In the photo on the upper right here, you can see Bishop Bejarano, and we did a Spanish language tree planting service at Our Lady of Guadalupe, our local Jesuit parish, which is just a wonderful group of people. Second from the left there is Hilda Tapia, who is their education director, and we just got Father Marty there, and you can see Bishop Bejarano, our auxiliary bishop, and Father Emmet on the right there. So really, really wonderful getting help from all these guys. San Diego is a fantastic multiracial community, large Mexican-American and Filipino contingents. And it's a great blessing to work with all of them. The key driver for us here is to have dedicated lay and youth leaders at the parish level, identifying those. If you have a champion in your parish or your school, then the job's going to get done. And if you don't, then you're going to be wasting your energy knocking on doors. So you got to find those key people. Next slide, please. We also had to do a lot of back-end work to make this happen. So we put together a tree planting guide, which I'm happy to share with anybody. We had a wonderful Franciscan brother, James Lockman, who has a PhD in restoration ecology. And he helped us put together this planting guide with trees that are particular to our local climate. And that's one of the things that we learned in a tree planting campaign. We initially thought that, no, we're going to get this done really fast. We're going to plant zillions of trees all over the place. And it turns out that planting a tree is a commitment, and planting it well in a dryland environment requires irrigation and education and getting people to say that they're really going to do this. And that actually turned into a positive for us. One parish actually got their DACA students to make a 2-year commitment to plant and care for the trees. And so we've had wonderful time doing all this. We also did a GIS, or not GIS, a satellite photo sort of Google analysis, finding the parishes that had the largest kind of central urban concrete jungle areas where we could do good stuff and target those for planning. Next slide, please. So trying to finish up as quick as I can. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So the future tree planting, we would love to expand this to include things like supporting monarch butterflies, expanding into gardening and agriculture like Kayla did, making use of our wonderful marine environment here to study, for instance, gray whales and get students to fall in love with nature, and also take care of our Catholic lands, which there's a group called goodlands.org that specializes in that. We really want to go with them. Christina, thank you.
Okay, so just to wrap it up really fast, we have a lot going on. We're engaging with our community in media in all ways. And 2 things I want to mention that we're also doing at the diocese that really is kind of at a more corporate level of thinking is our divestment from fossil fuels in our capital withholdings. The bishop is in line with the USCCB, but is specifically kind of focusing on a metric that to remove ourselves from any holding that is greater than 5% revenue from fossil fuels. Obviously, mutual funds can be problematic in that sense. So he's trying to really take the lead in that sense, Cardinal Designate McElroy. And the other thing that we're working on is part of our creation care action plan. Section 4 is about really like energy and climate action. We are really lucky to have a solar panel system that accounts for 80% of our energy consumed at our pastoral center, which is about 80,000 square feet. It's our primary location. So we're already pretty far along a trajectory, but we're working with Creighton University on a net zero pathway by 2050 so that we would have all diocesan owned and operated buildings at net zero by then. Like I said, we're also very lucky. San Diego Gas and Electric provides about 40% of its energy coming from renewable sources. So we're already around 90%, but hopefully we can be an example for other dioceses in this capacity. And if you wanted to reach out to us, we'd be happy to tell you how we're doing that if you want to take that message forward back to your home diocese. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am going to go ahead and share this slide. Okay. I'm not going to make it bigger before time. This is, first of all, thank you for everybody being here. And I'm going to sort of do this very quickly because we are 3 minutes over the time. All the panelists are magnificent presentations. Really think that you all provided a good map of how 3 dioceses started working on this and the type of work that you're doing. So thank you for that. For those that are wanting to be able to contact folks, I will hopefully be able to give you a copy of this slide tomorrow, which has the links to the websites for the 3 dioceses. And if everybody is okay, I will also share your emails, because I did see folks saying that they wanted to contact you. We won't have time for Q&A. I think I want to thank the panelists that went in and responded to the questions. If I do see that there's a question that wasn't answered, I will go ahead and try to answer that one. So at this point, I want to just thank you all. You were magnificent. Thank you for being here and giving of your time and expertise. One thing that I learn about these is that the Catholic community has an enormous asset, and it's the people in it that have this information of how we can put the path towards sustainability. And we just have to be able to give them that opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.